Yo, welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet Violet VGC video. I'm your host Jose Rocks, and today we have an absolute banger. But this is going to be in the form of just releasing some rental codes. So these are going to be 5 more unique rental codes, and I really went out on a limb with these teams. I really took my time with them all month to give you some really fun teams, but still also competitive. And it is going to be Halloween tomorrow when I'm recording this video. So this team is going to be pretty much Halloween themed, based around Team Rocket, because I dressed up for like Team Rocket for Halloween. So I wanted to, have a team for that. So this team, we're going to be actually using it at the start of the next ranked season, which these rental codes are really for the next ranked season. But of course, they're active now, so you can go ahead and use them now. But at the beginning of each ranked season, I drop 5 rental codes. I've been doing that for about 2 months now. So we're going to keep that trend going, right? And they're going to stay pretty much active until the end of the season on the last day. And that's when I would drop another video just similar to what I'm doing this. But today we have this Team Rocket team that I'm going to be not showcasing it today, but it'll be in the next video. But I'm going to go ahead and showcase this team and try to get to Master Ball with this starting the new ranked season. So if you guys are really interested in seeing, a team like this that can still be good and function in this format, just be based off, some of the sets that we have, I would recommend this team only for best of 1, just because the power level of it is so low, and these mons are generally not really that good outside of like how they function in this team. So I wouldn't expect this team to do too well in like open team sheet, but as far as closed team sheet, this is going to be an amazing team just to have some fun with. But Meowth is going to be, the leader of this team. So Meowth enables a lot of different strategies with this team. So with the Icy Wind, you can lead Meowth and go lead Victory Barrel. And if you have a Gholdengo on the other side, Meowth, base speed is max speed plus timid. So it outspeeds Gholdengo, right? Gholdengo is kind of an issue for this team outside of like Victory Barrel. So what you can do is you can go for Icy Wind, allow your Victory Barrel to outspeed the Gholdengo, and then go for like a Terra Blast Fire, and then just remove Gholdengo from the field. Terra Blast Fire with Choice Specs allows it to do like massive amounts of damage to things that it hits super effectively with. And your opponent, seeing Meowth and Victory Barrel, is genuinely not going to be expecting to get knocked out by that from this combo. Next, if you already outspeed your opponent, you can also go for Fake Tears. That combos really well with Victory Barrel as well. Fake Tears and dropping something's attack all the way down. I mean, not as attack, is special defense down, and being able to hit it with like a Choice Specs, Energy Ball, Slush Bomb, or even Weather Ball, right? If you have the sun up, is just really powerful in my opinion. And it allows, Meowth to enable the Victory Barrel. Meowth really only enables the Victory Barrel as far as like Icy Wind and Fake Tears, but you could use it like some niche scenarios to use it like next to Chimecho with the Shadow Ball, right? But other than that, you're mostly going to be using with Victory Barrel. Endeavor is also really cool, which allows Meowth to be very threatening. Meowth has no base stats basically outside of it's like a 90 base speed, whereas I will keep up in the format as far as speed, but it can't do any real damage, right? So Endeavor, with Meowth being so frail, allows you to get knocked down to your Sash, and if they don't double up into you, Endeavor is just very powerful. Plus Meowth is usually faster than a lot of the common mons in this format. You're just able to get off a fast Endeavor and bring something down to 1 HP. From that point, you can pick it off for something else on your team, right? So it's really cool strategy, and Meowth is really fun to use in that regard. Next, we have Arbok. Arbok is going to be pretty standard. This is also going to give you a matchup into Sneasler. So this was the cover for my Sneasler matchup with Covert Cloak plus Terra Flying. You're able to not get status by so you lead Arbok and they lead the Sneasler, right? You start off by Intimidated, right? So it's already not doing as much damage. You Terra into Flying. It really doesn't want to attack you anyway, but if it does, it's most likely going to go for a Dire Claw to try to status Arbok. That doesn't do anything to you with the Covert Cloak because you can't be status by it, and while you do take neutral damage from Dire Claw, it's at -1, so it's not doing too much into Arbok even with Terra Flying. And now with Terra Flying, you're able to bring the Sneasler down to Sash, and then once it's down to Sash, the next turn you just Sucker Punch it to remove it, right? So it's a really cool Sneasler counter, and it gives Arbok just a little bit of niche, which fits this team very well. Next, we have Weezing. So this is going to be an offensive Weezing. It's similarly inspired by the Choice Specs Weezing on Wolfie's team, but I just went another route. Since we're using the Team Rocket team, I had to use this Weezing. So we still have the neutralizing gas just to remove abilities that's pretty threatening. But also with Fighting Terra and Terra Blast, now you're able to deal with things like Porygon. You're able to deal with things, especially King Gambit. King Gambit feels absolutely safe in front of this type of Weezing, and just going for a Terra Blast fighting with Life Orb and just removing it from the field is just so valuable. And just to get surprise knockouts and get, you know, the one up on your opponent. Gyro Ball functions really well in Trick Room with Weezing being minimum speed, Brave. You're able to deal a lot of damage to things that Gyro Ball hits for super effective, or even if it's neutral damage. If they're very fast, it's going to be doing a lot of damage coming off that Life Orb. But then Gunk Shot just gives you a really good stab move into things like Rillaboom. And as you see, Team Rocket, they have a lot of poison types on their team. So we have to do a little bit of something to get more coverage with, you know, Flying Terror on Arbok, Fighting Terror on Weezing, and then Fire Terror on Victory Bell, just to give us a little bit more coverage across the board with those Terra Blasts. And they do come into play a lot with this team. Next we have Seviper. So Seviper is going to be another mon that enables the Victory Bell. So what you can do with Seviper is lead it, and with the Choice Scarf, you're able to outspeed a lot of the mons in the format, except Dragapult, right? Dragapult's a little bit too fast for Seviper, even at max speed with being timid. But you're able to set up the Sunny Day and then get a Weather Ball off if you Terra Fire Victory Bell. Weather Ball, Choice Specs in the sun is just doing so much damage to everything. Even things that are hit neutrally is able to one-shot it. And with the sun up, Victory Bell gets the Chlorophyll boost, so it pretty much outspeeds everything in the format, including Dragapult, right? But that's after the sun is up. So you do have a lot of different answers to Dragapult with this team. Just being able to set up Trick Room and then, you know, remove it with Chimecho's Shadow Ball, because Chimecho has a lot of special attack investment. Or you can just Sucker Punch it with Arbok, which does a lot of damage since Dragapult's not really that bulky. And then you can just Icy Wind it with Meowth too. Icy Wind into Sucker Punch is able to pick up the KO on the Dragapult as well. But Dragapult's usage is kind of falling in this format because a lot of people are figuring out how to counter it. So you don't really have to deal with it as much. Snarl is just here to help you with the with Dark Terror. Helps you with the Side Spam matchup. It gives you answers into that because they typically don't expect Seviper to outspeed and then just snarl them down and reduce their damage. And then you can just Terror the next turn to get around the Expanding Force, right? It's going to be your only Expanding Force answer. But it does help you into it, and as well as Chimecho being able to resist it, but not being immune to it kind of hurts Chimecho. But it does allows you to sit in front of Side Spam with these two when you go for the Dark Terror. Last but not least, Final Gambit, or Switcheroo. So Switcheroo is just a tech move that's similar to Trick. This allows you to get rid of your Choice Scarf, where you can ruin some of your opponent's mons that might be setting up in front of Seviper, thinking that it's free, and then they get locked into their move because they now have the Choice Scarf, right? So you can use it in some niche scenarios to where you need to use it. Final Gambit is just going to be able to do the same thing like Annihilape. Of course, the base HP is not as high as Annihilape, but it still removes a lot of different mons that just don't have that much HP investment. And you can just take them off the field and kind of, you know, set yourself up for success. It goes really well with Chimecho with leading Final Gambit and being able to set up Trick Room once you knock something out. Next we have Chimecho. We have Ghost Terror and Mental Herb. This allows you to get around Fake Out and Taunt. And it's a really cool set because once Trick Room is up, you're able to Encore and disable your opponent, which puts your opponent in really bad spaces to where they have to switch out and not be able to use the attacks that they want to use. And then it just allows, you know, the minimum speed Weezing and Arbok to do like a lot of damage on the Trick Room. And if Victory Bell doesn't have the sun up, it's also able to, you know, take advantage of Trick Room with its base speed not being as fast as a lot of the common mons in the format. You can take advantage of the Trick Room with Victory Bell as well. But keep a note that if you do take advantage of Victory Bell, you won't be using Weather Ball because Weather Ball only functions well when the sun is up. So you'll just be using Energy Ball, Sludge Bomb, or Terra Fire, Fire Blast. And last but not least is just Shadow Ball. It's just its tech with Chimecho to give you another answer into Godingo. Ghost Terror Shadow Ball is able to do about 70% to like most bulky Godingo. So if you have any chip on a Godingo, you can just pick up the KO with the Shadow Ball, right? So it's pretty cool tech for that as well. And we already went over Victory Bell's Choice Specs, Chlorophyll, Terra Fire, Fire Blast, Terra Blast, sorry, and Weather Ball. So it's just a really cool mon. And Victory Bell is actually the biggest damage dealer on this team, but you do get a lot of utility out of Weezing and Arbok as well. So that's going to be our Team Rocket team for Halloween. If you guys like this type of team, there's a rental code up the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below. Let's get into the next team. All right, next we have Electro. So this Electro has been catching my eye since the beginning of the season. When the season first was announced for Regulation H, or this regulation, I had in my thumbnail that Electro would be good. and I eventually knew that I wanted to use it in this format, and I finally found, you know, something that works for it, right? So this Electrode is really cool because you're able to go for the soundproof ability, which allows you to be immune to sound moves like hyper voice, which is very common in this format, or things like snarl. And your opponent might think that they can just, you know, pick up easy KOs on Electrode by hitting it with spread type moves that are sound based, and you're just able to stick on the field for a long time since you have a lot of HP investment and your max speed. The loaded dice allows Bullet Seed to be a multi-hitting move, which if you use that into Archaludon, you're able to get Archaludon up to plus 5 defense or plus 4 defense in one turn, which can be really threatening. And you combo it as well with Choice Scarf Annihilape. With this Choice Scarf Annihilape having a lot of attack investment as well as speed investment, you're able to just go for a really powerful Rage Fist turn 1. And if your opponent doesn't have like normal types, it's just able to do so much damage across the board, right? And it's a really cool strategy. If they do have normal types that they lock into, then you see we have a lot of fighting coverage on this team with Focus Sash Sneasler as well as Body Press Archaludon. I know I did give like a full in-depth breakdown of the Team Rocket team, but I usually say the full in-depth breakdowns for these teams for when I feature them on the channel with the gameplay, right? But I broke down the Team Rocket team simply because that team is not as intuitive as these teams, where as far as like you can kind of look at this team and see what it does if you're trying to pilot it, if you have the sets, right? Well, with the Team Rocket team, it's not as obvious on how to use it, so that's why I gave a longer breakdown. So the rest of these breakdowns won't be as long, but I will give you guys a full breakdown in the team preview of the videos. But Electro Web just gives you a little bit of coverage, allows Sneasler to outspeed anything that might outspeed it once Electro hits it with Electro Web. But the Sneasler's already max speed, right? Focus Sash, Unburden, and Sneasler is one of the most problem Pokemon in the format. And we have the Dark Terror and Throat Chop on this set just to help us deal with Gholdengo, which usually walls the Sneasler otherwise. Next, we have Covert Cloak on Pelipper. Covert Cloak is really valuable because it allows Pelipper to not be flinched. And a lot of the time, your opponents know that Pelipper may be Ghost Terror, but they'll still fake out into it because they want to deny Pelipper moving that turn, because either you're going to protect or you don't really want to burn your Ghost Terror, right? Because you might want to Terror something else. So it just allows you to be able to hit Hurricanes and, you know, target down some mons for like big damage when Pelipper's was threatening offense that turn. And next is this Indeedee with Rocky Helmet. Follow Me. This helps you against a Trick Room matchup, because Trick Room can be kind of tricky for this team when this team is generally speedy, with Electro, Sneasler, and Annihilate, with Choice Scarf being some of the fastest mons in the format, right? So Trick Room can be kind of threatening, and Indeedee helps you with that matchup. The Terra Water is just so you can survive a lot of different, you know, attacks, like Make It Rain or eruptions and stuff like that in Trick Room or outside of Trick Room, so Indeedee can't get knocked out. All right, rental code at the top right. Oh, let me show you. Sorry, rental code up at the top right. PokePaste down in the description below. Next, we have a Japan Sand team. So this team, the Tyranitar, I really wanted to use it after Nils Dunlap had won a regional with it. But I did kind of, you know, switch up the team from something that he used to something that fits me a little bit more. You know, so we're still using Tyranitar and Corviknight, but I really like Lycanroc over Excadrill because Lycanroc just offers just a little bit something different than Excadrill. Lycanroc next to Tyranitar, Garchomp, Kingambit, or even Corviknight, you can just howl, and it outspeeds all of them, right? And Lycanroc has a really fast base speed, so it doesn't necessarily always need the sand until you have to go against like speedier mons. So it's always able to get off like those howls and then just give Garchomp or Kingambit, Corviknight, Tyranitar +1. And then these mons at +1 are just able to deal so much damage. And then if they keep getting boosts because your opponent's not dealing with Lycanroc, then Lycanroc, your opponent, you can just run away with games, right? Next, we have the Rock Slide on it. Rock Slide spam is always going to be really good with Lycanroc and T-Tar. Double Rock Slide, especially against like Trick Room teams if they don't have Wide Guard, just allows you to really, you know, hamper a lot of the things that your opponent wants to do. Just keep a note, this Lycanroc set is walled by Wide Guard plus Psychic Terrain. But when they do go for that, you can simply just go for a Howl plus like a knockoff into one of the slots, like mostly Armarouge. And Armarouge is going for knockoff. I mean, Wide Guard. That means it's not having Follow Me protection. And your opponent's not going to Wide Guard or Follow Me because that doesn't get them anywhere, right? So you're able to just still threaten them with damage. And T-Tars is very good into Side Spam. Like, honestly, Side Spam against this team with Kingambit and T-Tar, they have to have Gallade. but even Gallade is not that good into something like Corviknight with Brave Bird pressure, right? So it's a really cool team, has a lot of good synergy. Garchomp with at +1 from Howl plus Scale Shot, with Garchomp being max speed, is able to pick up a lot of KOs and common things in the format that's not really able to deal with it. Most Garchomps on Sand teams have Sand Veil, but I thought that Rough Skin was so valuable for this team into the Sneasler matchup, because Sneasler, if it hits Garchomp, you can just one-shot it back with Stumping Tantrum, and then it knocks itself out with the chip damage from the Rough Skin, right? Or in reverse, it hits you first, it takes Rough Skin damage, and then you knock it out with Stumping Tantrum. So it's a really cool set. Terraflying on the Tyranitar allows it to deal massive amounts of damage. No Swords Dance on King Gambit. I thought Iron Hand was a little bit more valuable with a lot of the common fairies running around the format. And it's not having a Steel type move on Corviknight. Just the Steel type coverage is just kind of good on this King Gambit set, as well as opposing Tyranitar can be tricky. If you just have Lycanroc and King Gambit and you don't have Iron Head on King Gambit, Tyranitar can be kind of tricky into that matchup. But with the Flying Terror, it allows you a little bit more coverage as far as like getting hit by fighting type attacks. Those come resisted. And you see a lot of Flying Terrors on this team. You have Tyranitar Flying Terror, Lycanroc Flying Terror, King Gambit Flying Terror. That's so Garchomp can Earthquake next to everything. And if you see that Corviknight down below and Cryogonal both have Flying types and Levitate, that way Garchomp can Earthquake next to everything successfully on this team, right? So it's a really cool. The Cryogonal is literally here for the Dondozo matchup. So when I was looking through the team builder, I wanted to make a Japan Sand team. And one of the things that the Japan Sand teams from previous regulations had was a Rotom on the team, right? So I didn't want to use Rotom for this format. I thought Hydro Pump is really not that good. It can miss. And electric coverage, while it is welcome into like Primarina, is not necessarily needed in this format that much. So I really didn't feel like Rotom fitted the vision I wanted for this team. And I also wanted something that had Haze and also Levitate, right? So Garchomp can Earthquake next to it, and it gave me a Dondozo matchup. Because if you see this team, outside of like flinching Dondozo, you don't really have any good answers to removing it quickly or to get it down before it's able to deal a lot of damage to your team. So Cryogonal being able to switch in on Earthquakes from Dondozo and then just haze it away by outspeeding it is just very valuable. We have Ghost Terror on it just to give you, so you can't be flinched. And Safety Goggles allow Cryogonal to not take chip damage from Tyranitar Sand. So you see all of our mons on the team are all can be Earthquake next to except Garchomp. And they also all don't take damage from Sand. So this team just has a lot of cool synergy, right? Icy Wind and Freeze Dry just gives Cryogonal speed control and just coverage into water types, as well as just being a consistent ice move, right? And it's still, if you click Freeze Dry enough, you're going to be getting freezes. You're going to be doing decent chip and damage to where your Lycanroc or King Gambit can just pick things off with priority, right? So it's a really cool team, and this is going to be one of my most fun teams, Tyranitar teams I've made in my career. I've made a few Tyranitar teams like Regulation B, Regulation C. I think I made one in Regulation E, but they usually always have Lycanroc, and I've shown that I've almost, the highest I've ever got was like rank number 8 with a Tyranitar Lycanroc team with like Indeedee and I believe it was like Choice Band Corviknight on that team. But it was really cool, but this is just another similar team to that, but it's really inspired by my previous Tyranitar teams as well as Nils Dunlap team that he just used to win Lille Regionals. But that's going to be it for this team. There's a rental code at the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below. Now, this team is really cool. So this team is a very meta team outside of Cinder Ras, but it's really growing in the format, and I think this might be the most consistent team that I've made for this season. As far as not this Regulation H regulation, but the season that we're about to start, Season 3 of Regulation H. And it's because this team is already a set core, right? Rillaboom, Primarina, King Gambit, Sneasler already proven to be like a really solid core. And usually they'll have something like a Dragapult and a Magmar on the team, right? But instead of Dragapult, I wanted to go with Excalibur, and I really wanted to play with Cinder Ras. And Cinder Ras was the thing that I wanted to build around first. And when I put this team together, giving it a Firewater Grass core, giving it a Fairy Dragon Steel core, giving it a good fighting type, it just kind of came together and it functions just like those teams outside of having redirection, right? But Cinder Ras is going to be the fire type that replaces Magmar, and it does its job really well. So the Focus Sash on Cinder Ras allows it to survive any major hit, and it always hits back super hard with the Blaze ability because Libero, I believe that's how you pronounce his ability. While it's a really good ability, it was nerfed to where it only changes the first time Cinder Ras uses a move, the first time it's out on the field, right? So while it is cool to get, turn into a dark type or a normal type when you use Protect or Sucker Punch, I felt like Blaze with Focus Sash, allowing Power Ball and Temper Flare to do so much more damage, especially with Terra Fire, is just so threatening, right? And we have Coaching Sneasler on this team with, the Grassy Seed, so it can be extremely fast next to Rillaboom. But I really wanted to Focus Sash on a Cinder Ras, so that's why it's not on Sneasler for this set. And Sneasler going for coaching into Cinder Ras and just going for Fire Terra Power Ball is just so threatening, right? And the reason we have double fire moves is because Power Ball does have a 10% chance of missing since it's 90% accurate. And while that does seem really bad when Cinder Ras misses an attack, it's really not that bad if Cinder Ras survives with Sash, because the next turn you can just get an even stronger attack off, which would be Temper Flare, which doubles in power if Cinder Ras misses a move and becomes a 150 base power move, right? And then the reason that we also have Temper Flare is when you're in a situation to where you just really need to hit your opponent and you need that damage, and it doesn't have to actually be that much damage, but it still needs to be like a fire attack, super effective attack. And then you have a really consistent move in Temper Flare. And if you guys know what Stumping Tantrum is, a Temper Flare is literally the same thing, functions the same. The only difference is that Temper Flare is going to be a fire type attack. But this Cinder Ras is really fun to play with, and this team really does support it really well. The Rillaboom set is pretty standard, as well as the Primarina and King Gambit. One thing to note is that Rillaboom has high horsepower. I feel like that's really good coverage into opposing Sneasler and just a lot of things in the format that are weak to ground. And U-Turn, while it is good, it really didn't benefit this team as much, because while this team does have pivoting options, most of the time you're really going to just be sweeping with Cinder Ras or Excalibur, and you just have Sneasler, Rillaboom, King Gambit, and Primarina to support them, right? But of course, they also can deal damage in their own right. And the other set that I wanted to note is just Excalibur. This is going to be loaded dice with Thermal Exchange, which give it a boost if it's hit by a fire type move. And it's Ghost Terror. This Excalibur set is really good into opposing Sneasler, and it threatens Sneasler because you can just remove it with a Scale Shot or Icicle Crash. And if you have one of those Sneaslers that are a little bit bulkier, Scale Shot and Icicle Spear, always brings it down to its red health, and then you can just pick it off with Ice Shard the next turn, right? So it's a really cool set. Ghost Terror allows you to be immune to fighting and resist the poison type attacks that come from Sneasler, and all you have to do is attempt to dodge the status from Dire Claw. But other than that, this team is really fun, and it does function like a lot of the common meta teams that you've seen in the current regionals. Like I said, it's just really the Cinder Ras over the Magmar and Excalibur over the Dragapult. But there's a rental code up at the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below. All right, and last but not least, we have a Snow team, or if you hear from previous gens, a Hail team, but it's now called Snow. And we're finally going to be featuring Sandslash. So Sandslash is really cool in this format. I thought about having Rillaboom on this team. When I was testing it, I did have Rillaboom initially because it pairs well with Volcarona. But after testing it, I found out that Rillaboom, while it does offer Fake Out, it is really makes this team really weak to like fire type attacks. And Dragapult being able to resist fire and also just deal massive amounts of damage next to Mousehold with redirection support is just really threatening, right? And this team gives you a lot of good answers into a lot of things in the format. Volcarona with being fire / fairy is very uncommon typing that's not really common in this format. So being able to Quiver Dance up and then go for like Terra Blast and Heat Wave is just really cool with this team. Sandslash, we're going to be the loaded dice set. It's the star of this team. You can lead this next to Annihilate, go for those coaching boosts, and then you can even protect Sandslash, right? Go for the coaching boost and get your boost up, and then switch in Ninetales and just go for Icicle Spears and Drill Runs, and is able to threaten so much damage, right? So Annihilape is really cool with this set. One thing, if you want to change, you can change Annihilate from Choice Scarf into something like maybe Leftovers or Life Orb or something like that, if you want, just to so Annihilape can switch its moves. But Annihilape is always going to outspeed the Sandslash even without the Choice Scarf, so that's something that I just suggested. But I thought that Final Gambit with Mousehold as well as Population Bomb was really good for this team, because sometimes Sandslash just doesn't have that good of a matchup into your opponent's team. And being able to just remove one of their mons or maybe two of their mons with the Mousehold Annihilate lead, this allows Sandslash and Ninetales to sweep in the end game, especially if they lead their weather control on turn 1. Now Ninetales has complete control of the weather, right? So it's a really cool team. Like I said, the only things that I would change is the choice scarf on Annihilate for just regular Annihilate and still have coaching, and maybe the Rillaboom that I had initially over the Dragapult. But like I said, in testing, Dragapult felt a lot stronger for this team, and this offers a lot more lines into a lot of different things that you go against. And if you're saying, oh, this team is very hyper offense, is very fast, how does it deal with Trick Room? Maushold with Taunt plus Annihilate and Final Gambit are very good at stopping Trick Room. So if you ever see a hard Trick Room team, just lead those two and just go from there. You have a decent amount of protects on this team on Sandslash, Maushold, Ninetales, and Volcarona, so you can also play around protects and also like Quiver Dance up with Volcarona and things like that. So it's a really cool team. There's a Renico up at the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below. One thing that I did note when practicing with this team is that Ninetales is so freaking good in this format. Ice Terror Blizzards with Focus Sash, so you always survive a major hit, and being able to just threaten so much ice coverage and freezing things. I froze something my first game practicing with this team, and it's so good, man. Cause like when you freeze something, even though it feels bad for your opponent, they can always thaw out immediately, right? But there's sometimes where they just never thaw out, and that's the type of variance that Ninetales can induce that can give you a lot of win cons when you think you might have lost the game. And Encore is just so threatening because this team does force a lot of protects for your opponent trying to scout to see what you're going to do. And if they do protect in front of Ninetales, then Encore is just really valuable in helping you lock the board up so that Sandslash can sweep. But that's going to be it for these Renicos. Also, there's a Renico over the top right, as well as a PokePaste down in the description below for this team as well. And let me know what you guys think about these teams. You think they're, pretty cool? I tried to use a lot of different Pokemon that you don't see on the ladder commonly, but try to build like really, fancy or unique teams around them so that they function really well in this format, right? So they can still be competitive and you can use them in best of threes. Like I said, all these teams you can run in best of threes except maybe the Team Rocket team. And you can also use them in best of ones because they're not also just built on surprise, but they also built on like respecting a lot of different sets that these teams may run. But if you like this type of team or like this type of content, go ahead and leave a like for me, subscribe, turn on those post notifications, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay tuned, more videos soon. Deuces.